special edition of the Draft Countdown Show coming up. We're bringing back the man, the myth, the legend. Shane P. Hallam is about to join us, and we're going to talk skill position players for the 2026 draft and a little bit more coming up on the Draft Countdown Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the special edition of the Draft Countdown Show. I am your host, Brian Bosarge. Joining me tonight, Shane P. Hallam from Draft Sharks, formerly of Draft Countdown. Shane, it's good to have you back.
Thanks for bringing me back, Brian. Always a pleasure. And yeah, I don't get to do the podcast stuff too much in season anymore, so it's fun to come back and we can cut it up and talk some skill guys, because that's what I'm focused on now with the fantasy focus.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, that's what everybody really wants to hear about anyway, right? It's the skill guys. So I figured why not bring you on, because I mentioned on last week's show that this was going to be a quote-unquote bye week for the Draft Countdown Show, because I am recording this ahead of time as I'm going to Disney to do a Run Disney 10K coming up. So I figured we'd get this in the can for next week, and everybody can enjoy, everything without a break. But man, how are things going for you, Shane, since we last spoke over at Draft Sharks?
It's going well. Into our second year, we grew a ton. So if you play fantasy football at all, you can go to draftsharks.com. And this year I'm doing a weekly film article called Don't Trust the Box Score. So players that either underperformed or overperformed in terms of their stats, but in my film watch, I thought they were better or worse than they were. So that's been a lot of fun this year to kind of be able to spend Monday grinding some of the NFL film, and we're doing all the typical fantasy stuff, waiver wire articles, and trades and all that. So I'm doing a lot of dynasty work. So it's been a lot of fun for us, and we're just expanding, growing. And it's a pretty good brand. So if anyone wants to check it out, don't hesitate to reach out, and would love to get some Draft Countdown Show listeners in at Draft Sharks.
Sure enough. I mean, everybody needs to go over there. I mean, we have a large crossover audience. Our viewer numbers have really bore that out, with Brad doing a lot more fantasy stuff. Shane's like, wow, where was this fantasy content at when I was over here? But yeah, and it's just a lot of crossover appeal, especially in Dynasty, I believe, and maybe even in C2C stuff. A lot of crossover between Draft Countdown content and fantasy content, and that leads to definitely, Draft Sharks. Y'all have it all over there for those people who are big into fantasy. Not me, but other people, that are into that sort of stuff. Before we get into the skill guys, Shane, and I told you earlier I wanted to talk about this because this guy has seemingly, I don't want to say come out of nowhere. I'm sure there were some people that were on him, but because he plays for your Ohio State Buckeyes, like I said, we're going to talk about skill guys, but I had to bring up at least one defensive guy, maybe a couple more. But Arvelle Reese, tell me about this guy, man. And am I crazy? Is he? I didn't see Micah Parsons doing what he was going to do at the NFL level from his college tape, but is this a similar type player, type vibe?
I think it is. I drafted Arvelle Reese in a couple dynasty leagues this past off season, knowing he was going to take that kind of middle linebacker position. And for the Buckeyes, I did not expect him to be as versatile. Reese to have 5.5 sacks when we're recording this through 7 games, and just you watch that Illinois game and see a player who absolutely changed the way Illinois' offense had to run with the way he's blitzing the quarterback and being able to set the edge and kind of move around the formation to create mismatches. I don't think he's in Micah Parsons' realm, but I do think Arvelle Reese has that type of unique skill set where this is a player who probably, as an off-ball linebacker, Arvelle Reese, I think, can step into the NFL, be a top 10, off-ball linebacker immediately, but that is kind of wasting his pass rushing talents. His strength and his first step and his speed and closing speed is just ridiculous. So I think you're going to see a team like we saw the Cowboys of Parsons, like draft Reese and say, okay, we got to kind of sit him down as more of a defensive end pass rusher who can drop back into coverage, who we can play off ball in certain situations. You just have to account for where he is. So I could see him going in the top 10. I think it's very possible. I have a little fear that he's, like I said, going to be maybe better as an off-ball linebacker than a pure pass rusher, but we've seen it, and if it continues through the season, then I think you feel more comfortable with what he's doing.
Is there a chance he gets Isaiah Simmons?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's absolutely a chance. That's my fear. Like, I don't know if I would take him in the top 10. He's probably not in my top 10 players in the draft right now because he is a bit of a tweener where the talent makes you want to put him in a bigger role than maybe what he's great at, right? And I think, again, if Arvelle Reese came in as a Fred Warner type, where you're playing him at middle linebacker, letting him drop back into coverage with his athleticism against tight ends, I think he's a stud, but you're not going to draft a player in the top 10 to do that. You don't have to do, right? So right. Now you're going to set him down and let him blitz. And I do have some fear there. I think there's some downside.
Yeah. I've talked on the show. I think mentioning Isaiah Simmons, he was for people who may have forgotten about him, and that I can see why, but he was coming out of Clemson was just a can't miss pick, right? Just his athleticism, his versatility at the linebacker position. Was drafted in the mid first round by the Cardinals and they had no clue how to use him defensively. And now is he even in the league anymore? I mean, he may be on a practice squad. I'm not sure. But I thought I thought Harold Perkins from LSU was a player that I thought was going to get Isaiah Simmons, dependent on, but I don't think he's going to get drafted as high, as maybe he would have 2 years ago if he were eligible. Did you see this Ohio State defense reloading and being as good, if not better, than the defense on the national championship team?
No, there's no way, right? You stepped in thinking like, oh yeah, this Ohio State defense is going to be, you lost your defensive coordinator to Penn State, and so a whole new defense with, we knew they'd be good, right? You still had Caleb Downs, you had a lot of the corners coming back, but the front seven I thought could be bad. Like I thought there was a possibility of just teams running all over Ohio State and have to be the offense to carry them. But if you had told me, hey, the run game of Ohio State's going to be the bad part of the defense, the front seven's going to be great, I'm like, I don't think you know what you're talking about, right? And that's what we've seen. Like this, I was, optimistic when Matt Patricia was hired, but I wasn't. We've seen Matt Patricia in the NFL do some wacky things. Like, I don't know if I am fully on board, and he's stepped right in and been phenomenal. So I'm wholly surprised, and we'll see if it translates really to the Michigan game is the next big test.
Yeah, they don't play anybody else until Michigan. So it's
UCLA has been not pretty good.
It's amazing what happens when you change, offensive philosophies in midseason. You know what? I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it today. But Caden Curry has been great. McDonald has been great up front for them. It's been a it's been a joy to watch that defense, man. Like they're one of the better defensive teams. Like they remind me defensively like of Georgia a few years ago, where it's just dominant all day. And now the scary thing is, and we're going to talk about some of their skill players coming up, but Julian Sayin's getting a lot better as the season goes on, and that's not good for everybody else.
No, I mean he's outperforming what we saw Will Howard do to this point last season. Now the schedule's different and whatever, but even so, I think it's impressive to see Sayin moving forward. Plus this defense, I think Sonny Styles as well as that pass coverage linebacker had an interception, and he's been just the athleticism and size is ridiculous. It's going to be a tough team to beat. Like I don't think the games will be pretty. I mean, I think there's going to be some ugly games in there against Michigan and against Indiana. Likely, if they beat Michigan in the Big Ten championship and maybe in the playoff, I think going to be tight. But I don't know. And college football, if you have a dominant defense, that's very difficult to overcome and beat, as we saw with Georgia and some of those SEC teams in the past.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on. Let's start talking about some quarterbacks, right? That's the name of the game. We both, I think, took Arch Manning out of the equation. I have completely. You still have him floating around the board until he's not. Is I assume the Arch the philosophy you're taking here until he says I'm coming back to Texas next year. He stays on the board wherever. It's currently 10th on your board. For those inquisitive, we're not going to talk about Arch Manning. We are going to talk about number one, and this guy's another one that has completely just taken that next step in development this year. Former 5-star quarterback, was committed to Michigan at one time and then went to Oregon, correct? Or did he transfer from Michigan?
Yeah, went to UCLA. He started there for a year. Yeah.
When Chip Kelly was there. That's right. But Dante Moore, quarterback at Oregon. What do you like about him?
I think his between the ears is what's impressed me, and that's a big change, I think, from when he was a true freshman. I thought under pressure in big spots, he'd make the big mistake and throw the interception. We saw a little bit of that against Indiana, but I thought that game against Penn State on the road, tight, close game, had to come from behind, and there was just no fear, no panic. Put the ball exactly where he needed to put the ball when he had to throw it. Threw it 39 times and had a great completion percentage. Threw the ball down the field. Like I think he has the physical tools. There's a reason he was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. Dante Moore has the arm strength. He can move around in the pocket. He can take off and run, but that's certainly not, his primary game. And I think his pocket navigation is just great. He can step up. He feels the pressure. It's a lot of those advanced things that I think separates him. I'll say right now for the quarterback class and all the other skill positions we'll talk about, I don't think it's a good class. Like I think it's a bad skill position class, one of the worst I've scouted for a while, and thought the quarterbacks could prop it up. And I think Dante Moore, because teams need quarterbacks, should go high in the draft. But if I was making a board purely without taking position into account, he'd probably be more of a mid to late first round pick to me. Because I think there's things to work with. I think he could go back to school. I think there's where if Fernando Mendoza of Indiana, Lenore Sellers might go back, probably goes back to school or transfers anyway. We could be looking at just one, maybe two quarterbacks in the first round again, if because of this ability to return. I think Dante Moore is one of those players that could use another year to just develop that mental side and continue learning how to read defenses. And he could be a number one overall type of pick in 2027.
I was going to say, looking at your top 10 quarterbacks, I wouldn't be shocked if only 4 of your top 10 quarterbacks actually entered this draft.
Yeah,
because Dante Moore, as good as he's been, he's started 8 games or 10 games, or he doesn't have he did have some starts at UCLA, So he has more starts than, we'll talk about him later. But we both, I have Dante Moore third right now. So I'm not that far off from you. We both have the same guy at number 2, and that's Indiana quarterback, Cal transfer Fernando Mendoza. I feel like he's been accurate, but I don't. My only concerns with Mendoza is I don't see him getting off his first read very often. Now, granted, at Indiana, he hasn't had to a whole lot, right, this season, because but that's a concern. Like, I feel like he breaks down when he has to come off that first read, and it doesn't go as well for him.
And I think a lot of it is technique with that too. I agree with you. I think when the first read isn't open, Mendoza will, or if he gets pressured quickly, you'll see him drop his eyes and start to, I don't say panic, but you start to not be looking downfield and looking how to make that completion. I think he's made a lot of great throws, not easy throws, but I think the plays that he has succeeded with have kind of come easily. When he is under pressure, the footwork breaks down and the eyes start dropping, and he doesn't go to that second read well. So he feels more comfortable just putting the ball up sometimes, which one of his interceptions this season, I can't remember which one, was him just forcing the ball to the first read, and instead of progressing and finding an open receiver that was there. So, I think we saw that against Iowa, especially, with their defensive front, was able to get some penetration and saw Mendoza struggle a little bit. And, I think his ability to get outside the pocket, to force you to take into account his legs and athleticism. He's not Lamar Jackson, but I think this is a player who I think Mendoza can take off and run for a first down. Does it smartly. Can have a scripted run or two as well. I think in the NFL that's always a plus. I could see him being the number 1 overall pick, but with the recognition that there's still a little bit of ways to go. Yeah, by default, it's still a little bit of ways to go to get him to where he could be a franchise quarterback.
Right. Your number 3 quarterback is still my number 1 quarterback. It has been rough. Lenore Sellers has all the talent in the world. He's the most talented quarterback in this class. Arm strength, physical ability, athleticism. He's the most talented quarterback in this class. He's still only made, he had 12 starts last year, so 7 starts. So he's still got less than 20 career starts. He'll have 24 starts by the end of the season because they're not going to a bowl game. So he'll have 24 starts by the end of the season. But his eyes,
if he makes it that far,
correct, and that's very much up in the air right now for reasons I'm going to get into and have gotten into for the weeks. But it's like his mechanics have soured in the last few weeks because he can't drop back without getting immediately hit. You saw the stat from the game against LSU where he had 19 yards rushing on 22 carries, but GPS tracked him for having 857 yards moved during the game. The man ran a half a mile during the game and accounted for 19 yards rushing. It's insanity, though. The poor offensive line play he's had this year, the poor play calling from Mike Shula, and it's just completely awful, and it's killing his mechanics. And I don't think he's going to enter the draft. I think he's going to enter South Beach this time next year and be replacing Carson Beck in Miami. Yeah, I'm just going on record and saying that.
I mean, that's what I would do, right? I mean, if you're him, I think the film has been so bad because the offensive line and the scheme have been so bad. You need to transfer. You need to get out of there and go somewhere else. So I would be pretty surprised if he declares, unless there's some real intimate knowledge that the NFL understands this plight. But when you're getting pressured, and we've seen this with quarterbacks on bad teams, and I'll even go as far to say I think we saw it a bit with like Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech, even when you don't have the best guys in front of you, you're getting pressured. You have to freelance a lot in a game. The mechanics go out the window and you start making bad decisions and these things snowball. And I don't think it makes Lenoir Sellers a bad quarterback, because I think we've seen early in the season last year him be able to perform when it's not absolute the apocalypse out there coming down on him, even when there is pressure. And I just think the rushing upside that he brings to the table at his size at 240 pounds. I mean, this is something where you could have a player, it's why Anthony Richardson got drafted where he did. And I think Sellers is a much, much better passer of the football than Richardson was. But the uniqueness could be revolutionize the NFL. So I'm with you. I think Sellers ends up transferring, but I think he's almost locked into a first round pick without a major injury, even if it's the end of the first round, for someone to take a chance on that, because he can throw better than the guys we've seen go, day 2, early day 3, Jalen Milroe, those type of players.
I would absolutely love to see him in an all-star game environment. And specifically the Senior Bowl, but I don't
never see that.
I don't think we'll see that. But it would be nice to see him operate in that landscape a bit. But yeah, we have mutually the same number 4 quarterback, and I think this one, especially after week 1, is probably a shock to both of us and a shock to anybody. But Ty Simpson from Alabama has been one of the best quarterbacks in the country since that game 1 against Florida State, and it's been just a breath of. I mean, he's making all the throws. His reads are great. He doesn't really mess up, and that's shocking to see. Now, I don't think he's the most overtly athletic quarterback out there, but he has the arm strength. He has the accuracy. I mean, it's been crazy to watch how good he's been these last 6 weeks.
He's a tough evaluation, because I think there are some incredible throws. He's had probably the best, if you took the highlights, the best throws of these top 4. Ty Simpson is going to have 1, 2, 3, the best 3 throws there. But similar to, why I was low on Michael Penix in this Kalen DeBoer system, where, it's really built for the quarterback to be able to make easy reads. If you can get the ball in the right place, like you can kind of lay up your way with good receivers, which Alabama obviously has, and Jeremy Bernard and Isaiah Horton, et cetera, Ryan Williams, et cetera, et cetera. He can kind of get the stats that he needs to. Like there's a ton of these games, the Wisconsin game, like I feel like there's 50 college quarterbacks that could have made almost every throw in that game, so it's nothing against Ty Simpson. I think he could be great. I think at this point, he probably would be maybe the second quarterback off the board. I think it's potential. I'm still not there. I think the zip on the ball in that kind of middle of the field, I still struggle with a bit, but yeah, you can't deny how good he has been, in terms of the consistency within this system. So he he could end up by the end of the year, go back and rewatch. Oh, this is the best quarterback in the class. It could absolutely happen for me. I'm just not quite there yet. And I think even that Florida State game isn't as bad as it felt at the time. Yeah, I think it was better for him than it seemed.
Based off the breadcrumbs that I've been picking up the last few weeks, I don't think he's going to be in this draft class.
Really interesting.
Yeah, just based off some information I've been picking up, he's really good friends with Ryan Williams, like considers him his best friend. Ryan Williams has 1 year of draft, 1 year until his eligibility is up. His dad being a coach, I think, those guys tend to stay, right? Just historically speaking. And we've harped on we've said, number of college starts has become rapidly important to guys who have made the transition to the NFL recently, right? These guys who have more college starts have had more success out of the gate, seemingly. A few exceptions, but like Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, and some of the other quarterbacks that have had quicker success where guys like Anthony Richardson, who had single-digit starts, did not succeed. Simpson only has 7 career starts up to this point. His 8th will come Saturday. So I think he's a 2027 class quarterback, one who will be in this draft class, and we'll quickly go through some of the other ones because we went way too longer on quarterbacks than I thought we would. Garrett Nussmeier, he's got some injury issues, right? And that's got to be hampering him this season and going to hamper his draft grade.
Yeah, it's always the tough part of like, where do you put a player that isn't healthy and probably won't be healthy? Because when Garrett Nussmeier has been healthy, I think he's excellent. He's one of the best throwers of the football in this class. But yeah, we certainly have never really seen that, and there's been some talk of issues that are going to linger throughout his career. So I think it's kind of a top 4, and then you could take 5 for me to 12 and maybe even further down, and whatever. Like, these are guys that are probably more day 3 type players right now.
We'll quickly go 6 through 9 on your board. John Mateer, Oklahoma. He strikes me as it shouldn't work, but it kind of does type of quarterback. Cade Klubnik has kind of fell off the map a little bit this season. He'll still get drafted this year just based off of what he could be. I think I've tried to tell you about Jaden Mayava when he was at UNLV.
Yeah.
And transferred to Southern Cal, and he's having a great season. I don't know that he's in this class. Carson Beck will be. If he can throw the ball to his own team, he's good. Any quarterbacks outside of your top 10 that you think maybe you might be lower on? I know one that I'm looking at that I'm a lot higher on than you.
Yeah, who is it? I don't know.
Sawyer Robertson from Baylor. I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
I like his size. I like his arm. I like his accuracies here or there. He does turn the ball over a lot. That is not. I'm not a fan of that, but I think he's got a chance to have a good circuit and push up the board a little bit.
Yeah, I wish he. How can I put this nicely? I guess I wish he did not play like he was an absolute idiot. Like he just. I don't know. Sometimes
reckless abandon is not always the best approach at the quarterback position. Taylor Green's another one that I think can have a good all-star circuit and climb boards a little bit. He's another turnover-ish machine.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have that another big rushing unicorn type player, but against any semblance of a defense, I think he's pretty much falling apart.
Yeah. So not a good class. A good class.
It doesn't look great. And like you said, if we get most of these guys going back to school, if Ty Simpson goes back to school, I think this class really takes a big hit.
If you lose more Sellers, Simpson, Mayava, and Arch Manning, who like I said, I think all 5 of those are in 2027.
Yeah, I'll say we see at least one of them. Maybe it's more, maybe it's Simpson, whoever's going to be a top 5 pick. I think it'll be tough to say.
But the rest of these cats are day 3 hope and pray guys.
Yeah. I think that's all the guys you named there from Nussmeier on down. I just don't see anyone that's you're willing to take a chance on at this point.
All right, let's move on to running backs. And Saturday night showed there is nobody close to Jeremiah Love as RB1 in this class, right?
Yeah, there was a little bit earlier, like, no, first 2 games didn't get 100 yards and had that rough game opener to Miami. But
it's funny, they lost both of those games. It's almost like maybe they should have gave him the ball a little bit more in those 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, look, you ran 23 times against Texas A&M. I don't think you could have given him the ball any more than you did. But we saw the receiving with the rushing, the explosion. Yeah, I think he's gonna. We'll probably never see a test from him, but he would test off the charts. I mean, it would be in that high high res nines. I think absolutely, and yeah, I mean against USC, against those weaker defenses, I mean he's always been so dominant, and he's tough. I think he's a tough player. I think he's a player that teams are going to like. I think he's a first round pick. Maybe late, but I think he's a first round
I
pick.
think he's the only one that goes in the first round at running back. Tell me why Nick Singleton's fell off a little bit. The running back from Penn State.
I mean, Nick Singleton, yeah, has always been a player whose athleticism was much better than his play on the field. Like, I don't know if there has been a year where I've come away super impressed by Nick Singleton's film. Like, you see what is an NFL running back, and then you see a player who can't pick the right hole against Ohio State last year, and doesn't know when to kick the ball outside. And it seemed like he was improving slowly as time went on. And I feel like this year's been a step back, and part of that's Penn State struggles, and it's a bad offensive line. But these last two games, I mean, he missed consistently cutbacks against Northwestern that could have picked up 6 yards, 10 yards, and instead he had -1 yards. And to me, that's not worth it. Now, he is going to test. He's going to run incredibly well. He's going to jump incredibly well. He's going to look great. Someone probably takes him still on day 2. But I just see a player who's more athlete than football player.
He's one of them guys you would avoid in rookie drafts, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends where he goes and what we see the rest of the way, but he's probably not going to be a player I have on a lot of teams. So even some of the guys I have behind him on my rankings, I feel better about them having a higher floor, because I think Nick Singleton could barely play in the NFL. Wouldn't surprise me.
Before I get to one that's completely popped off to me, especially after this game last week, because that's I've only watched a couple of Notre Dame games this year, and the Southern Cal game was one of them. I want to talk about Jonah Coleman from Washington, built like a brick shithouse. This guy's good, man. 5'9", 228.
I love those guys. I love the short, stout, built, right? I mean, it's the lazy comp at this point. I'll come up with a better one when we get to that point in the year. But like the Maurice Jones-Drew-esque, like, it's really hard to tackle Jonah Coleman. Incredibly difficult, I think, to tackle him cleanly. And he has such a good contact balance at 220 pounds, where like you have to wrap him up, and the technique has to be great, or he's going to break that tackle. And we saw that against even the good defense, even against Ohio State, against Michigan. I mean, he was consistently breaking the first tackle, and open field, like, forget about it. I wish he was a little bit more, a little faster, a little more explosive, but at 220 pounds, I can forgive that. And I'll say a really good receiver for his size. That
I do love that.
Yeah, that I wasn't sure we'd see this year, but he's already matched his maybe not quite matched when we're recording this, but probably by the time this airs, he's matched his high for the season in receptions already. So I'm a big fan. I think he's a solid second round pick to me.
It happens more often than I think people realize, of running back tandems from the same team getting drafted high, like top 100 high. We're going to see that again this year with Jeremiah Love and his Notre Dame teammate Jadarian Price. This guy has really popped out. Like, he's the top running back for how many teams in college football? There's 136 in FBS. He's RB1 for probably 133.
Yeah,
136.
Yeah, pretty close to it.
But he plays behind Jeremiah Love, so it is what it is. But now he's adding kick return to his repertoire, so to speak, which I think NFL teams that we've seen this year, kickoff returns are up there looking for these guys. Jadarian Price is going to get drafted in the top, maybe as high as the second round, with his skill set, catching the ball, running the ball, his explosiveness, and his ability to return kicks.
Yeah, he's extremely good in just that second gear. Like, when he hits, really good patience from Jadarian Price. Then when he hits that second level, you can see him hit that top gear and just be able to run away from linebackers, and he has the size to run through DBs. It's just very tough to bring him down, especially if Jeremiah Love's wearing you down, and then you bring in Jadarian Price to wear you down. Yeah, I mean, the kick returns, I think we're seeing more NFL teams use top 3 receivers, use their starting running back and second string running back. Like, you're going to put these guys back there for returns. I think that's going to be a boost that puts Price in the top 100. I do wish he was a little bit better catching the football. I don't think Jadarian Price is natural at that, and it might be something he's just never really been asked to do all that much, and that's the reason for it. So he's going to be one at the combine where I'm going to be honed in on those pass catching drills to see is it Notre Dame or is it Jadarian Price that's the problem.
Jonathan Taylor taught me that lesson, that it's like I can't rule out a guy just because he doesn't have high production catching the ball at the running back position, because Jonathan Taylor had about 2 catches his entire career at Wisconsin, and now he's one of the, if not the best overall back in the NFL.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think you write it off, but it's a
check
highlight
down, but highlight. We'll see.
Look for a later.
Where was this explosiveness from Justice Haynes when he was at Alabama? Because he's been arguably the most explosive running back in college football this year.
It's just amazing what a run scheme change can do. I think when you have a more power gap scheme, that's where Justice Haynes excels at. When you have an offensive line that's going to get a push. To me at Alabama, Justice Haynes would get the handoff and be like, all right, what zone am I supposed to, where am I supposed to go? He's thinking too much. And Michigan is get the ball, you're running off tackle, you're running a dive, like, where you're going. And he just goes, and the hole is there because Michigan has those big guys up front. And now when you have a Justice Haynes, a 5-star running back with that explosion, with a really thick lower body, even though he's only 210 pounds, I don't want to say only, like that's small, but not even small. You just can't bring him down cleanly, and it takes multiple players, and that's how Michigan's going to win games. So I think Haynes, again, kind of like Price, it's like, the receiving might depend on what teams are interested in him, but I think he has a shot at being a top 100 pick, but probably more, early day three type. That's where I am with Haynes and Price.
Give me a couple of running backs that we haven't talked about that maybe not even like your next one's up, but some guys maybe down the list beyond the top 5 that you like. Give me 2 guys.
Yeah, Rob Henry Jr. from UTSA, I think is kind of the intriguing G5 type of running back. He's really explosive. He's definitely on that smaller outside kind of receiving back edge where he's running away in these kind of more softer defenses. You see the explosion and the pass catching, and he's really running that offense, and he's getting the ball and you can't stop him. He's running away from you. He's very shifty. I think he's a name to keep in mind in that kind of day 3 mold. And then I'll go with a guy not having the best year, but still just physically, I'm still interested in Caden Fagan from Illinois. Who's just absolutely 263, 255. I mean, and he probably runs a 4.5 in the 4.5s. And so like the explosion in size is, if he was on a better team, if he was on an Ohio State, if he was on a Michigan, I think Caden Fagan could be a potential top 100 back with that size and uniqueness of the explosion. He's such a good athlete. He's almost 260 pounds. Just a player that like I would take a shot on day 3. Just let's see what we can do. Maybe it's nothing, but if this guy works out, he's got that Derrick Henry type of size and mentality.
I heard rumors that Georgia was trying to bring him in the offseason, made an offer, and it was rebuked. Maybe that would have worked out for both teams, both sides, Fagan and Georgia, because I think Georgia's not running the ball quite as well as they have in the past, and they could have used a big guy like that, and he obviously, I think, probably would have been better served there. Trying to see if there's anybody further down for me. I kind of like Jam Miller a little bit, the Alabama running back. Hollywood Smothers from NC State, I think, has some explosive qualities, but he's undersized. So, but those are a couple guys I like later. Let's move on to receivers. I think receivers better now than I thought it was 2 months ago. It seems like we've gotten a lot better production out of receivers here lately, and I had him unranked to begin the season because I hadn't watched him. You said you need to get on that. I did, and now Jordan Tyson from Arizona State is wide receiver 1 for me.
Yeah, I was skeptical going into the season. Like, can he keep this up? We've seen injuries with him, but Jordan Tyson just is so much of that Arizona State offense. They're running screens with him. He's running almost nearly a full route tree, playing in the slot, playing outside. He looks like an NFL receiver already. And we saw that last year. We're seeing it again this year. The consistency's there. I mean, Tyson is so kind of shifty. He's powerful off the line. You try to jam him, I think he can beat you that way and beat you deep. And if you play off the route running's there for Tyson to get open. He's smart against the zone. Like I say, I think he's just a little bit kind of thin, taking hits. I think if the medical checks out, I think Tyson's a top 10 draft pick.
Another guy that you told me I needed to watch, and I did, and he's your number 2 guy. He's number 4 for me right now, but that's Denzel Boston from Washington. Another big, strong, physical, but great route runner. Good hands, just great overall player. I thought for sure he would be related to David Boston, but he's not.
Should be, right? Like, looks that way.
They look very similar. Yes.
Like 6'4", well built, and Denzel Boston. I mean, I think he might be the best contested catcher in this class. He really boxes out basketball type of skill set, and has the routes. He's not quite as big physically as Drake London, but I think has some of that. Just go up and get it. And how do you kind of cover a player with this long with that type of size and strength? And there's enough footwork there. A little stiff when you're that big, which I think Boston is a little bit stiff. That worries me a little bit and probably knocks him more to the late first. Consistency can be a problem, but he has the skill set, I think, to be a number 1 receiver in the NFL, which I question maybe the rest of this class if we have any other number 1 NFL receivers here.
A lot of number 2s in here, but we need those number 2s.
Yeah, good number 2s, right? I mean,
a lot of good number 2s. We said that about we're gonna talk about another Ohio State receiver, but we're talking about that with Emeka Egbuka last year, and look what he's doing as a rookie. Going to be a good number 2. Hell, he might be a number 1. So maybe we got these 2s that develop into 1s. Can Cardell Tate be that guy? Is he the next first round Ohio State wide receiver?
I don't know if he's going to get.
Do we lose the streak, Shane?
I think we might. Like, when I watch Tate, I think he has first round talent, but when you're next to Jeremiah Smith, you don't necessarily get to show.
He is the embodiment of number 2 wide receiver here, right? Because he's the number 2 on his own team.
I mean, and his hands are just excellent. In that last game against Wisconsin, I mean, when he was covered, he's leaping for balls. Just the high pointing and the ball tracking is phenomenal, and probably the best in this class. So I think if Jeremiah Smith wasn't there and Tate was able to do this, then you're saying, oh, this guy's the top. But 2 people are covering Jeremiah Smith every play. You get a one-on-one almost nearly every play, and he's taking advantage of it. But how comfortable do you feel that he can be a true number 1? I'm not sure. I like him. I think he's going to be I think he could be a T. Higgins type where you absolutely have to respect what he's doing or you're going to get burned.
Yeah, and that was about to say that it's very T. Higgins-esque is what you're describing there. Because I think T. Higgins is a number 1 on a lot of NFL teams, but we've never seen him away from Chase outside of his rookie season. So,
right. I mean, Higgins could do it. And I think Tate could do it. But you feel a lot better if you have a really good number 1 that teams are not going to be able to stop your passing game.
Talk to me about the 2 Southern Cal wide receivers. I know you like them both, but you have Mekhi Lemon ranked higher than Jacoby Lane. So talk about those guys.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a little bit lower on Makai Lemon than consensus right now. I mean, he clearly has the stats and is the number one for USC, but having a player with kind of the athleticism and burst off the line, that's what Makai Lemon really brings to the table. And he's fast. He can turn a reception into a touchdown. He becomes a running back after the catch. Like there's a lot of great things there. Again, it's not a player I'd want as my number one receiver, but those explosive plays has added the punt return stuff. He's running the football every now and then. Like he's this kind of weapon that NFL teams like in today's NFL. I think Makai Lemon probably is overdrafted. Like he probably is going to go in the first round. I'll be interested to see if he tests and what those times are. But yeah, I mean, right now he's number 3 for me, and I would imagine probably number 2 on most boards. I kind of like Jacoby Lane fairly close to Makai Lemon, even though the production hasn't been there as much. Because I think Lane is kind of this 6'4" long receiver, like long strider that I think is going to run faster than people think. Has that downfield ability. Like he kind of has some Jameson Williams to him, which can be good or bad. But I think Lane is that kind of deep threat that is going to stick because of that specific role that what he's going to be.
So a guy I've got way higher on my board than you do, so I want to get your take on him. And I'm going to go ahead and explain this process here. I've watched 2 Tennessee games, so this is not, and the 2 games I just happened to watch have probably overinflated my current grade on him. But Chris Brazzell III from Tennessee, the Georgia game, the Syracuse game, these 2 games, he was amazing in those games to me when I watched. So I have him higher than he'll probably end up if he ends up entering the draft, but a Tulane transfer. What are your thoughts on Chris Brazzell?
Tennessee receivers, man, it's so hard.
I know. That's the other thing that's in the back of my mind, too. We're not supposed to do that, though, Shane.
No, I just mean the system is so hard to evaluate when you have so much space and they're all stacked up. And it's, I think Brazzell is he's savvy, he's smart. He knows how to get open. And one of the things I love about him is his ability to run a lot of routes the same way, double moves, slants, look like drags, look like some of his deeper stuff. Like he sells a lot of these routes the same way, and that's tough to cover in when you're that wide and stacked up with other receivers. So we've seen it. Georgia, come to fruition where Georgia couldn't stop him because of that. But if you have a defense that can be a little bit physical, like we saw against Arkansas, with him, I think he's so just inconsistent. I don't think Brazzell's a great athlete. I don't think he's this, going to be explosive and running away from guys and being able to win that way. So to me, that always, I think the ceiling is lower than maybe it seems with the stats. But I think he could flirt with day 2 if he does have good testing.
Yeah, I said I think especially the Georgia game, just the dominance he had in that game is still in my mind. With my grade on Brazzell. We're talking about 3 more guys, 2 of note and 1 just because I want to talk about him. But let's talk about oh crap, where did he go? Because the big game he had and the upset over Miami, Chris Bell from Louisville. Immediately, everybody was comping AJ Brown immediately after the game. Is that something you see, or?
I mean, I'm not quite there. I'm not quite there. I think it's a hard comp to make. I mean, I see you have this kind of big physical slot receivers, 220 pounds, but has the footwork of maybe a 195-pound receiver. And you've seen, against Miami, against Virginia, who's been surprisingly good this year, that Bell has been able to take advantage of that. And he's getting the ball. Miller Moss is locking him in as the first read. And even when, teams try to bring an extra, a safety down, Bell has the size to win on those catches if they're contested, but he also has the footwork to get some separation. So I am intrigued. I just don't think he's going to be a fit for every NFL team. I don't know if you want Chris Bell playing outside. I think it takes away a lot of his skill set. And, some teams love a big slot. A lot of teams don't. And I think that's going to be the limiting factor for him. He's going to be a player probably I have higher than where he gets drafted is kind of my feeling.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Jeremy Bernard. We talked about everybody needs a number 2. He's really good at that.
Yeah, I think this whole Alabama receiving core is pretty good, but Jeremy Bernard is maybe the number 1. I think this year, like Ryan Williams,
you could make that argument. He's the number 1 receiver on that team.
Yeah, my comp for Ryan Williams has always been CeeDee Lamb right from the slot, and I think what we've seen even with the Dallas Cowboys this year with George Pickens on the outside, it reminds me a lot of what you kind of get with Jeremy Bernard when you have a player that's a little bit bigger that can play on the boundary and I got to cover the middle of the field. Well, now you got Bernard one-on-one on the outside, and we're seeing him even expand from that to take screen passes, to do some inside work. Like he's getting moved around the formation a little bit more. I think they realize how much of a weapon he is. So I've been impressed. I think the athleticism is there. I think the length is there and the size is there. It's just about kind of, he's not going to put up eye-popping numbers every week with the options that they have.
All right, last guy we're going to talk about, you know who it's going to be. Why can't Nick Harbor catch the ball clean? Have you ever seen a player with his physical gifts? Like who is a comp and receiver who had the physical gifts that he has but never catches the ball clean?
Obviously this guy was, I'll say the NFL version of Jonathan Baldwin is what Nick Harbor reminds me of, right? Where like you're really relying completely on those physical gifts and haven't progressed the nuance and technique of the position, whether it be hands, whether it be feet, to actually, be able to get open. And I think it shows you how much like Nick Harbor, and I'm sure listeners know just how much of an athlete this guy is, right? I mean, he's going to contend with Calvin Johnson to be the most athletic receiver we've ever seen come out of college football. And he simply, can't get open. And when he does, can't catch the football, like doesn't know how to catch the football. It's like you've been a receiver now for 3 years. You and I had this conversation way back when he was recruited. I thought he should have been a D end. Like he would have been.
You're not the only person. I was texting back and forth with Pete Smith, who writes for Orange and Brown, and he was the same thing. I was like, ask him what he thought about Nick Harbor. He's like, I would have liked him better if he played defense.
Yeah, if he would have been D end, I think he would have been a top 5 player in the class. And now it's like you got to take a chance on him in day 3. Because Nick Harbor, if you're going to have your coach is going to have the hubris to think he can fix Nick Harbor, and if you can, you have potentially one of the best receivers ever. Like that's the upside. And so
yeah. I will say, I think this year his route running has improved.
He's definitely I think he's gotten better at everything this year, but it still is an NFL caliber.
But but you know what would make him a lot better? If he had an offensive coordinator that schemed plays to get him open.
Absolutely.
Just throwing that out there. Just throwing that out there. But unlike Lenore Sellers, who I think will transfer, I think Nick Harbor, when your main thing is speed, he needs to go. Just declare.
Yeah, I don't know. I like if I'm him and I South Carolina kind of stuck guys around like to take this chance. I mean, I would go in the transfer portal and I would pick, I would go to Tennessee. I would go to a scheme that's literally just about getting you open and let me get the ball in my hands, go to an offensive minded coach that, can develop receivers, go to Ohio State, who's going to develop a receiver, like go to a school that can develop receiving talent. It can't be worse. He's not going to get slower.
That's true.
That's what I do.
That's true. But yeah, it's disheartening, and I really hope that that maybe our numbnuts head coach will at some point decide to fire Mike Shula and after the season can hire somebody that maybe he'll be able to retain some of these guys. I don't know. Wishful thinking.
You might have a new head coach. We'll see.
That's very fair too. And I texted Miranda, who's a Virginia Tech grad, the other day. Miranda Woodhome writes for Draft Countdown. I texted her and said, "Y'all can have him. We're just take him home to Virginia Tech. Y'all need a head coach. We'll let him go, and we'll bring somebody else in." All right, let's quickly move to tight ends because this one we're going to get through pretty quick because this is a one-man class. In my opinion, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think this is Kenyon Sadiq and a bunch of guys.
No, I think it's fair right now. Like Kenyon Sadiq is heads and shoulders above everyone else, and I think we started to see that last year when he was getting work with Terrence Ferguson, who was went on to be a top 100 pick. But Sadiq at 245, a better blocker than I thought Sadiq was, and then he's just exploded as a pass catcher, playing in the slot, playing in line. The athleticism and the ability to go up and get footballs, it's so hard to stop right now for Oregon. I mean, he's just such a good weapon for them. When they lost Evan Stewart, it's like, oh, Sadiq is filling that. So, I think Sadiq's a easy first round pick, probably top 20 pick to me right now. And I don't think anyone else touches the first round, but it might be some day two guys.
I think we might get a couple of day two guys. Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt. I think we both have him number 2. Max Clare from Ohio State. I think we'll see how he goes. Maybe Lawson Lucky or continues to develop for Georgia if he was to declare. I don't think he will declare. If he did, I like Michael Trigg, but I have questions about why he's on his 19th school.
Yeah.
I think he has a lot of questions to answer off the field for teams. But I think athletic-wise, I think Michael Trigg is right up there at the top of this class. But he's also more of a big slot tight end than I think he is an inline blocker.
I like Eli Stowers. I mean, he's leading Vanderbilt, who's pretty good in receiving still, and I think he's been on the freak list the past 2 years. Like, we're gonna have good. Was a quarterback convert, so he's just playing the position past couple years. I think the NFL might like Stowers more than the film indicates. I'll toss out Marlon Klein from Michigan's my number 4. I think he might be the best athlete at the position outside of Sadiq in this class.
He's German born, right?
Yeah, from Germany, 6'6", 250, but beat out some really talented tight ends. He's dealt with some injuries this year, but I think he's going to have a great, really good receiving.
One more tight end, and we'll wrap it up. You have him number 9 right now. I have him number 3, and I think Brian Lamb's going to write up something about him at some point in the next day or so. But Brett Norfleet from Missouri, tight end, 3rd-year player, 6'6", 260. I think he's really shown great hands and improved a ton this season.
I think he's an impressive pass catcher. It wouldn't surprise me to see him continue to rise up the board. I think against some of the better defenses, Alabama, Auburn, he kind of disappeared when he had athletic coverage against him. But strong hands, and I think a better run blocker than I expected going in. So he could absolutely move up for me.
All right. Last thing before we go, let's wrap up the offensive line really quick. Is this offensive tackle group as good as I think it is?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like I said, I still have to do a lot more work outside of the top guys, but I think the top players, I think we're going to see a very tackle heavy top 10, especially with how the NFL is going.
Yeah, I got 6 guys I think could sneak into the first round as offensive tackles. The Utah guys, Caleb Lomu, Spencer Fano, Francis Malagoa from Miami, Caden Proctor, I think is going to get in there. Isaiah World from Oregon, Jennings Dunker from Iowa. I think all could be first round offensive tackles.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think all those names have that shot, and again, I think the need is there.
I think we would have had one interior offensive lineman go, but he tore his ACL the other day, so that kind of killed that.
Yeah. It's still some possibilities out there. I think we'll see one sneak in.
Probably, but it won't be Connor Luke from Auburn.
No, unfortunately.
All right, Shane, man, this has been great.
Yeah.
We haven't had a show together in a couple of years now, and we went an hour. How does that work?
Yeah, look, it's just settling right back into how it used to be. So it's fun doing this. I appreciate you bringing me back and still being a part of the team a little bit. So thanks, Brian. That's definitely been a pleasure.
No problem. I can promise you out there between now and the 175 days from when this show goes up on the air, we'll have Shane back on. We might even do a mock draft or something.
That'd be great.
Together on the show again and bring that back. But Shane, man, again, tell everybody where they can find what you're doing these days.
Yeah, go to draftsharks.com. If you're into fantasy, you can sign up for an account and use our tools. And, don't hesitate to reach out if you're interested. But our rankings every week are free. You can check out my articles, my film article. And then, after the NFL season's over, once the Super Bowl's done, I'll be writing profiles on all these skill guys, so you can check those out.
We got to get Draft Sharks to finance you back to the Senior Bowl, man.
Well, hopefully one day.
We'll see. All right, Shane, man, thanks a lot.
So see it.
All right, so that was Shane P. Hallam from Draft Sharks. Just a really good friend. Been great having him around me all these years, and it's great to be able to talk to him tonight, break down the skill players. All right, that's going to do it for this special edition of the Draft Countdown Show. Everybody, like the video, subscribe to the channel, notify everybody, go to the Discord, sign up for that. We'll put a link down here below, and go to draftcountdown.com. Top right corner search bar. Link to join the Discord, and just go to draftcountdown.com for everything else you need. But with that being said, we are out of here. Thanks for watching.